Hi, it's George Nordhaus, and today we have something totally unusual. Today, I think that we have a presentation that is the best overview of what's going on in our industry today. I say that without hesitancy. I've listened to it. I've made some comments, but very few, because when Bruce Cochrane looks at our industry and tells us what's going on, that is something important. He calls it jumping off cliffs and learning to fly. Where'd that come from, Bruce?
Well, it's a current Vonnegut quotation, and really just applies to where we are today, where things are happening so fast and changes happening so fast that literally it's like jumping off a cliff and learning how to fly on the way down. We have
you better do it.
Sit on the sidelines and just noodle this. We have to do it.
Let's take a look at your little bit of background so people know who's talking. Bruce has been around for quite a long time. I know I've worked with him. He had Cochrane Porter Insurance Agency a number of years ago. You see all the things that he's done there. He runs Renaissance now, and Renaissance is one of the top, certainly in New England, the top aggregator with quite a number of agencies and about $500 million in premium volume. And long story there, but Bruce has done other Monday mornings for us that have been excellent on aggregators and so forth. Anybody who wants to start an aggregator, I always send them to Bruce. I don't know if that helps or not, but I do it. He's a past president of the Boston Board of Fire Underwriters. Seems like I remember that one, Bruce.
Well, back in the day, there was a gentleman that we made Man of the Year who was running IMMS back there. Somebody named Nordhaus.
Oh, I do remember him. Yeah, if I can remember back that far. Yeah. No, that was a great honor that you did for me, and that became the basis of our relationship, and it's been over all those years. We're not going to say when, but it's a long time ago, huh? The Heisman Award of the insurance industry, right? That was great. Okay, Bruce, what are we going to talk about?
Well, we're going to talk about all the changes that are really raking the business right now, and that's the basis of the title of this presentation. Changes happening so fast, and we're all having to make changes on the fly. The other analogy that I've used, it's sort of like changing a tire at 60 miles an hour. Just imagine that. But it all comes down to what your view of the future is, and future shapes our view of how we need to change and modify our businesses, and this is basically how we see the future. I mean, first of all, agents have to adapt to the reality that P&C commissions are shrinking, and that they will continue to shrink. And they'll continue to shrink as a combination of three things. Competition, there's competition coming from everywhere. It's not just within our business, it's without of our business too. There are other people who are trying to sell our product as add-ons to their product. Obviously the big directs versus independent agents, and even among independent agents. So there's unbridled competition. Technology has just been incredible. For instance, the largest single line of insurance in the country, private passenger automobile, is going to experience a significant drop in premium due to the huge technological advances that are really all coming down the road right now, literally down the road. Driverless cars. I mean, this is a reality now. The Google really got their name on this at the beginning, but you're seeing such things now as that you've seen the commercial where the car is backing out of the driveway and it stops on its own before it runs over a little kid walking back to the car. There are features on cars now that will keep the car at a certain distance from car in front of it on the highway. And now the government is even getting into writing regulations. When the government starts writing regulations, you know it's really happening, to regulate cars that talk to one another, that communicate with one another on the road, that will keep one another from getting into crashes. There are all kinds of technological advancements that are going on here that are going to drive down loss costs dramatically. When loss costs go down, premiums go down, and when premiums go down, commissions go down. We see that this one item alone could have as much as a 50% reduction in premiums and commissions on this huge line of business on which most of our business is based. Then we get into predictive modeling on the technology side. And predictive modeling is just underwriting by the computer. Very simple layperson's terms. But the carriers have fallen in love with predictive modeling, and rightfully so, because it utilizes data that a human being could not be able to calculate in their own minds for all the variables that make one risk better than another. You and I might take a look at two what seemingly on the surface similar risks, but when you drill down onto the specifics in hundreds and hundreds of data points that create a score, which then indicates to the carrier that this risk versus that will produce a better result. And of course, along the way, it means that they no longer have to rely on people, meaning underwriters, to make judgment calls. And there are a lot of people out there who will tell you that the data makes better decision than individuals. Interesting thought. I'm not saying pro or con, okay? And these predictive models that the carriers are beginning to use are really going through a maturation process. We're really probably at the top of the second inning of a 9-inning game when it comes to the maturation of predictive models. And we're going to see that as these get bigger, involve even more big data, masses of data, they're going to get even more accurate in their ability to predict loss, and therefore what's going to happen as a result, and it's beginning to happen now, is that there are some carriers beginning to say to themselves, we are now responsible for producing profit, meaning our predictive model, if the agent puts enough risks through that model, we'll be able to create the profit. So therefore we don't have to depend upon an agent bringing to us quality risks that will produce a profit, because we'll do it. So as a result, the shift is going to be in the way we're compensated, and the carriers are going to say, we're going to compensate you based upon growth. We're not, so profit share will be declining over the years. It already has begun to do so, and with this growth of predictive modeling, and the carriers now believing that they control the profitability, they're going to begin to pay production bonuses as opposed to profit share bonuses. This is just a fact of the landscape. And of course, all this comes with the internet, and that fist there represents that the big change here is that the consumer is now in control. It's really remarkable how this has changed things around, and I'm going to get a little bit more deeply into this as we go through here. There are only two generations that mean anything, the connected generation and the unconnected generation. And of course, these are really more than just generations, they're mindsets, of course, because the largest age group that are becoming connected day by day are the baby boomers, more so than the younger generation. Of course, the younger generation, they're almost all into this. But the point is that every day the unconnected generation decreases and the connected generation increases. And so I asked this of all agents, on which of these two generations do you want to base the future of your agency? And along with this has come what I call a top-down, bottom-up transition. It used to be that the carriers produced a product, a set product. They licensed us to sell that set product, and then we turned around and shoved it down the throats of the unassuming consumer, right? And in a way, agents' job was simply to keep the customer dumb, meaning we had all the knowledge. We still have most of the knowledge, but the consumer now, with the advent of the internet, anybody can go Google anything. They can do a whole hell of a lot of research that they couldn't do before. And so the consumer is a lot smarter than they were even 5 years ago. And so now we think that going forward, our job as agents is going to be to make our customers smart. In other words, to focus on accessing, organizing, and shaping knowledge and communicating it in a way that is valuable to others, meaning our customers and our prospects. And that's, again, it's about providing solutions first, not before relationships, okay? And so you're going to see now groups of insureds getting together now with the advent of social media and the steamrolling of social media. You can see groups of insureds getting together and formulating their own risk groups. It's really fascinating. In that way, it'll be bottom up, meaning the insurers will be telling the carriers, here's what we want you to do for us. Here's the kind of risk mechanism we want you to provide us with. Fascinating how this, and we can go further onto this. So, for instance, who are the movers and shakers in a lot of agencies today? The kids. Why? Because they know how to deal with this technology. And we're being trained by the younger generation as the way it should be. We're bringing some seasoning to the process, but they're really helping us make this transition. And I think along with this comes what I call a new relationship equation. And that is, as I said before, we used to think that the relationship would produce sales, but now it's the sale, which is the result of a solution that now creates the relationship. And that increases retention and referrals as well. And so we're also going to see, because of this, some carriers valuing growth, being their predictive models will produce the profit, and so they value growth, and others that will still value profit. And you're going to have a little bit of a carrier tug-of-war within the agencies between those carriers who value the growth and those that value the profit. It's going to be an interesting way to see how this all shakes out. So what's at stake? We believe we're really in a war here. And the war, to a great extent, is for the soul of independent agents, because we can't afford to get trapped into the name that tune trap. Because in the end, everybody out there will agree, we can't win on price alone, but we can win on every other aspect. And how are wars won? Wars are usually won by those who have the technology, have the infrastructure, the discipline, the logistics. How do you get supplies to the front line? The armies, march on their stomachs. And so if you don't have the logistics, then you don't have a chance of competing with the other guy. And it's all about outsmarting the other guy. So we're in a war. And so how are agencies going to do this? First and foremost, we need to become really efficient. Our commission's going to be shrinking. We need to be able to make better use of the dollar, more with less. We need to drive down our expenses, which can drive up our margins, obviously, profit margins, but I would suggest that the driving down of expenses enable us to be able to devote those resources that we're saving into what? Sales. And the more we can drive expenses down, the more we can devote to sales. And it's all about driving the business by the metrics. We talk about analytics. You don't get what you don't measure. There are a lot of agencies out there that really need to come into this way of doing business, because it's the only way that they're going to make the most of their resources. And along the way, a part of this is what we call eliminating non-performers. I'll give you a great example. George, did you know that statistics bear this out, that over 50% of the average agency's accounts are single policy accounts?
Roger Sickles told me that over 60% in commercial lines, and I didn't really realize it. I thought that would be more with, it's just simply, it's a one policy customer.
Well, and these do nothing. These don't perform for the agency. I mean, agencies have them and say, oh, we're going to round the accounts. Agents don't round. We've seen the numbers. We talk to agencies who say, do you account round? Oh, yes, we account round. But then when you go into the numbers, you take a look at the accounts, you do the analytics, no, they don't round, okay? So we'll get to this a little bit later on, but there's clear options for agents here. These are non-performance. If we round them, then they can become performers. If we can't round them, we have two options. We can either eliminate them, and quite frankly, we'll be better off, because when you have a $300 commission account, how fast does it take to eat up that $300? Or what some agents are doing is saying they're bundling up these single policy accounts and they're shipping them off to service centers, carrier service centers. And guess what? There's a raft of statistics that will indicate that since the service centers are better at rounding accounts than most agents are, that agents who put single policy accounts into service centers will not lose money by putting it in there. They'll actually gain commission dollars, and guess what? They don't have to do any of the servicing. So there's a lot of food for thought here in the way that agents can create efficiencies.
I never hear that. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to We're going to do some work on service centers. Maybe we'll
Oh, it's a great. We think it's
Yeah.
a great opportunity.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree.
And service centers have evolved significantly over the years. But the bottom line here really is that agents need to become sales machines. Sales need to go off the charts. Why? Because that's the basis upon which we will be compensated, pure and simple. Any other activity that takes away from selling means that we have reduced sales potential. So part of this is offering non-P&C products and services, right?
Yep.
And in doing so, we talked about this a little earlier, we can expand the revenue per account. And you think of it, why do we are not able to develop the relationship with many of these accounts? Because there's not enough commission there to do it. We can't afford to spend the time. Well, if we're increasing the revenue per account, not only are we making more money, the bottom line, we're increasing the relationship with the account, and that spells greater increase in retention, and that in turn feeds what most agents tell us over and over again is the #1 source of new business: referrals from existing customers. So this equation, by offering more products and services, expand the revenue, expand the relationship, increase retention, increase referrals.
The 4 R's.
Referred to as the 4 R's. Right.
Yeah, I'll use that too.
And of course, acquire. We're now into a period of time where all the baby boomer principals are coming to the window to sell their agencies, and we're going to have the most incredible acquisition rate over the next 5 to 15 years than we've ever had in the business. And so most agencies should be able to take advantage of that. The #1 issue that we see with agencies is that they are being swamped by activities that have no bearing upon sales or delivering raving fan customer service. So we advocate that agencies need to delegate to eliminate all the friction that's keeping people from sales. What we say to our agents is simple. Do only what you absolutely have to do yourself or what you do best. Delegate everything else to someone else who can do it faster, better, and at a lower cost. This is a huge issue, George. I think there's a huge untapped sales capacity within agencies if they'll only learn to delegate. And the other advantage that you get by delegating is if you're delegating to people who are better at some of these functions than you are, then you're going to wind up being able to have best of breed in all these various areas. I'll give you a great example. Policy checking. Fundamental process, function for independent agencies. You send the request off to the carrier, you get the policy back, and now you want to make sure at least that you have exactly what you ordered, right? But I'll bet you, and we spend a lot of time on that, and some agencies even get down to the next level, comparing the policy forms to make sure there's no change in the policy language, right? That's a level of detail. But I'll bet you $100 that there is an agent out there that goes out to their customers or prospects and say, you should do business with me because I'm the best damn policy checker in the county.
Yeah, big deal.
Think of it.
Yeah.
It's not doing us any good. We need to have that function, but delegate it to someone else who can do it faster, better, and at a lower cost.
You know, Bruce,
spend a half an hour at least on this one.
Yeah, I have to tell you on that point. I just, after all these years, after I've been for many years doing without, I finally took that to advice, and I hired a full-time administrative assistant. And I can't believe the things that I'm not doing anymore that I've been doing over these years. I just can't believe it.
Frees you up to do what you do best. You're not, George. You're not a good administrative assistant. You're a great marketer. You're a great marketer, but you're not a good administrative assistant.
No,
right?
I'm not. It's made a lot of difference.
So the bottom line in this whole thing is that all of these tools, all of these techniques are designed to be able to enable agents to focus on the two single mission-critical activities of agencies, and that is to sell and to deliver raving fans customer service. And along with that comes the ability for agents to be able to articulate a relevant value proposition in today's terms. I mean, it's the old school stuff of locality, expertise, confidence, trust. That's our stock and trade. But we have to articulate it today and walk the talk in today's terms. And that means accessibility, ease of doing business, using the internet, so on and so forth. It's about, again, being with the customers, offering them how they want to do it, when they want to do it, in the fashion they want to do it. One of the biggest points here is that there's an irony here. We're independent. We offer choices. We offer options. So where is it? In what other industry does the provider of one flavor of a product or service dominate over those who provide multiple options, multiple choices?
I don't know. I can't think of any.
Yeah, that's the irony we have right here. We need to become, and this is a big one, agents need to become both digital and social. These two things are intertwined. Really can't become fully social unless you're digital, and you really can't become fully digital unless you're social. And so these are the new tools, the new techniques, and this is the biggest fundamental underlying change that's going on right now in the business. And there are people who are having to totally change their whole way of thinking about how they communicate, how they promote their brand, and how they develop an increased sphere of influence. And the real point here is that these things don't allow us to be able to sit on the sidelines and sort of see how they evolve. They're happening so fast, things are changing so fast, and they're inextricable in terms of the trends that it's like a revolution. If we don't get on the bandwagon now, if we don't become both social and digital, the world is going to pass us by. And along with this get back to this data thing. Again, I tell our agencies that this is so important. Mastering data analytics is so important, even in today's terms, never mind the advent of the big data capabilities. This is so important that if the principal can't do it himself or herself, hire someone who can. It's that important. It's just like there are a lot of agencies out there now are getting into the social world. What are they doing? They're hiring the young people who know how to operate in this sphere. Likewise, agents need to be able to master this capability, and the best way to do it is to hire people who have this capability. And so this brings us to just the whole technology platform that we're operating under. The world has changed in technology. We can no longer afford to have systems whereby someone comes up with an idea, they put it into a committee to make a decision on whether they're going to look at it, they put it into the queue, then it goes into development, and by the time they tested the whole thing, we're a year and a half, sometimes 2 years and more between the ideation and the implementation. And guess what? In today's terms, that's a generation. The idea is no longer relevant. So we need to have systems that are fast, that are nimble, where we can make changes on the fly, that have the capability, obviously, of providing a mobile access, because that's where the world is now. PCs are not going away, but they're not going to be selling more PCs in bunches. It's all going to be done on tablets, smartphones, and on other forms of mobile devices that we have yet to be seen, but that's about all the change. And all these things have to be interactive. We're talking about the huge amounts of data that we need to be able to utilize. We need to be able to capture it. We need to be able to utilize it. We need to be able to draw decisions from it, action plans from it. But that means that we have our core agency management systems, and then there are peripheral systems that are out there that agents have the ability to be able to create on their own or engage with, but those are the things that really make an agency stand out from the crowd. But those systems need to be able to interact totally both ways, data in and data out, with the basic core agency management systems. So the basic agency management systems have to be able to open up all their APIs to enable the agents to have this complete interactivity. You and I have discussed this before, George.
Yeah,
if the new system requires double entry, it's not going to fly.
They're not doing it.
Double entry goes against this whole idea of being able to do things efficiently, to be able to concentrate on selling.
You know, I've been trying to do that, and you and I have. For years, we've been trying to beat on the agency management people. For gosh sakes, guys, let's get this thing interactive. Let's get our
I
marketing
think the
system.
good news is that there are some of them, and we were with one of the major vendors last week, and they're making concerted effort to move into a more Silicon Valley type of an approach to software development.
Good.
Anyway, it's needed. And so technology offers a way for us to be able to level the playing field. It can make the little guy, the David, be able to go up against the Goliath. But I have to say here, it's not just about technology, because it's about building a brand of trust and confidence the old-fashioned way, the way we've been doing for decades, but utilizing today's techniques. We're building local brands that resonate with today's customers where they are on their schedule, in real time, delivering valued solutions. That's really what it's all about. And in summary, I mean, we've put together 13 points to independent agency success, and there are very few people I think who would argue with most of these. And we can make this available to any one of the listeners if they'd like. I do an article for one of the local trade magazines recently that incorporated these, but they're pretty basic and they're pretty straightforward, and it summarizes a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about here.
No, that's how I got hold of you. I saw that article in the Standard, and I thought it was a great article. And I thought, boy, oh boy. I mean, of course, I knew you anyway, but this went right to the heart of the matter. I think
the last two are very important, and that is outsource functions, share back rooms. We talked about it. Sharing back rooms is an important thing. It's all about size these days, and that means scale. And it's all about leveraging scale to multiply our growth, profit, and equity. And so an agency can either grow big by themselves, meaning you have a multiple producer sales force, and you become a sales machine, and you grow 15, 20% each year, but it takes you a long time, even at that kind of growth rate, to get the kind of scale that's needed today. That's why you find today that there are increasing agencies who are banding together with other agents to make this happen. Our organization happens to be one of them. Anybody interested, you might want to take a look at the most recent independent agency magazine, independent agent magazine that the Big I puts out, and there's an article in there called Coming Together, which is all about aggregations, and I am quoted in that, of course, which
as
is
usual,
suggesting it.
But
this is the thoughts. These are the thought stuff, the provocative thoughts that we need to be able to be engaging with in order to be successful going forward. So
right.
In summary, George, these are incredibly exciting times we live in. They're magical times. There are things, as I said before, we're able to do today that we couldn't have imagined being able to do years ago. I mean, my God, today we're building human organs with 3D printing. I mean, 10, 15 years from now, you and I will have a bank of spare organs that are made from our own DNA, so there's no rejection issue, that if one of the parts breaks down, it's like an old car. The part breaks down, you pull out the broken part, you put a new one in, and you put your foot back on the gas pedal, and off you go. And that's why they say that today there are people alive who will live to be 150 years old. I totally believe that's the case. But one of the things we have to keep in mind is that the big directs. I'm not one to say let's throw down everything and hand everything over to the big directs. We'll just give up. I don't believe in that at all. Okay, because if the big directs have 65% of the market share, guess what? It's now theirs to lose.
Good.
Agents who use the technology and communication tools that are available, and they use their creativity and ingenuity that is the hallmark of independent agents, I see boundless opportunities for enterprising agents who marshal their resources effectively, make use of all the tools available, and that enables them to level the playing field and experience unlimited opportunities. Okay? We're in a crisis. George, the the Chinese word for crisis is derived out of two other Chinese words. One meaning chaos, the other meaning opportunity. The idea here is that in all crises, there is both chaos and there's opportunity for those who have the vision to be able to see it. I love it in times like these when everything is up in the air and all the balls are moving around. It means that there's more opportunities being generated today than at any time in the history, not just of our industry, but of this country. And so I'll leave you with this thought, and that is that today, if it can be imagined, more than often it can be done. And if it can be done, you can be certain that someone will do it. And if we don't do it, someone else will. That's how we see things today, George.
That is terrific, and the whole thing has been terrific. I'm all excited now. I'm going to get this around. I think that what people have to do now, if I were running an agency and I were listening to this, I would certainly want to make sure that every person in my agency listened to it. And then I would like to use this, Bruce. This would be a great tool to play in an agency meeting. Like a Monday morning meeting, whatever they'd have. Because you're exactly right. It really puts everything in perspective. It's pretty
Well, that's
scary.
a great point, George, because along with this, one of our 13 points is that the entire agency needs to be engaged in this.
That's right.
It's not just the big guy in the corner office. No. It's not just the visionary. The entire agency. You know, a good friend of ours, Jerry Faust, used to say that he had the definition for an entrepreneur, if you recall. He used to say that an entrepreneur is anyone who proactively adapts the organization to change.
Oh.
That means everybody, from the guy in the corner office, the woman in the corner office, right down to, we used to say, the person in the mailroom. How can I deliver what I'm doing today faster, better, and at a lower cost? That's the essence of change.
I totally agree. How can they get hold of you if they would like to?
Sure. I mean, down here, phone number, email address, the address on the bottom here, but obviously you can just look us up on the internet, www.renaissanceins.com. More than happy to talk to anybody who wants to think through these things and throw this stuff around. We may not be 100% accurate in everything the way we see it, but we think that if you look at the tea leaves and you see the trends that are going on right now, most of this stuff is inextricable. It's what people call hard trends.
Well, I don't know hard trend and soft trend, but I know you have a really wonderful overview of what's going on in the industry. The best one I've heard in a long, long time. I'm going to get this in as many hands. Bruce, we're now this league's expanding. We're going out to associations and PIA and the Big I and organizations. And well, you, for example. Renaissance has been passing along Monday morning to your 500 on your mailing list to your companies and everybody else now for about 6 months or something, and I really appreciate that. We're getting a lot more people to do that. We have, Bruce, are you ready for this? 17,000 now on our mailing list, and it's just great that it's happening. So it's going to take off. By the end of this year, Bruce, just for your knowledge, you can tell all your people, we'll have 85 of these on our on the archives. The archives, you go to roughnotes.com and see that, or Agencies Online. You're already there if you're watching this probably. And the archives are on there, 85, and you'll be able to. Well, there's 35 or 36 now, and by the end of this month, by the end of the year, it's going to be the biggest library of hearing people like you say how it is. Boy, I think that's great. So everyone else, don't forget to go back to the email that this came with you, and you will find the quiz flash there from the community center, the E&O tip of the week, and it's always good to have. And Bruce, I want to thank you again for all that you've done for this industry over these many, many years.
George, I've just been having a lot of fun.
Still, and you always will, especially with that new inventions, with all the new pieces of the bodies. You may live to 150, I hope.
Well, we love to create, and we love to create opportunities here. We just that's what keeps the juices flowing.
Me too. Talk to you later. The rest of you guys, I'll see you next Monday morning.